Hi, my name is Matthew Blewett. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Business Connexion, essentially responsible for strategy and specifically mergers and acquisitions in Business Connexion, and specifically looking at the Internet of Things strategy that's part of the Vision 2020 strategy for the BCX Group. So we've just finished our dinner looking at the Internet of Things and trying to see some real-world applications. So what I dealt with was first of all starting with a bit of talk about the hype. I think a lot of people by now have heard about the revolution that is the Internet of Things, and I guess sometimes people think it's a bit hyped up, so we looked at some of the hype numbers and then covered some interesting new research that's been done by McKinsey, which actually suggests that in some ways some of the predictions we've been making are actually underhyped. So perhaps there's even more to expect from the changes that we're going to see through this Internet of Things revolution. So that's kind of how we started, and then we went on to look at some real world applications, some really cool things that are happening in various industries, from obviously consumer focused areas in health. We looked at some examples of work that's been done around Internet of Things applications in the agricultural industry, some sensors that have been used in deforestation areas to pick up where there's been illegal deforestation, some cool applications in fact in game management. We've got issues of course here in South Africa with rhino poaching, and we looked at some of the ways in which IoT is being applied in those spaces. The idea was really to give the audience a feel for the ongoing waves of IoT applications. And then we really wanted to change tact and say, well, this can all be very overwhelming. But essentially some things haven't changed, and that what's happening with IoT, as much as it's changing business models, it's bringing up opportunities and disruptions, it still is really centered on how we work with the customer in the center, how we're able to give power to the customer, how we're able to make the customer's ability to consume a product or service simple and easy. And when you see this, you begin to understand as a business how you can use the Internet of Things to enhance your business proposition. And so from that starting point, we then began to look a little bit more practically at what does it mean to begin to think about an IoT strategy? What does the IoT stack look like? What are the various elements that are required for you to think about if you want to really develop an IoT strategy for your organization? And we looked at the various elements, and specifically showing that this isn't something that you can just easily transition into, that many of the underlying technology elements are huge shifts. For an individual that's perhaps been involved with an IT strategy to now begin to develop an IoT strategy means moving into spaces that many people in IT have not been familiar with. You need to begin to look at devices and sensors and actuators. These are technology elements that perhaps many IT people have not ever had to work with. The kind of networks that are being built to deliver IT solutions are completely different in the protocols that they use, the connectivity, and the way in which power management needs to be facilitated. When you look at the storage components, many of us from IT are familiar with relational database storage techniques. We're talking about completely different ways of storing the streams of data that we're receiving in an IoT ecosystem. So we have to start talking about Hadoop and Apache Spark, and these are very, very different technologies, and then all the way through to the analytics, the big data analytics, the elements to do with machine learning. So really what we want to do is to expose some of the practical elements to the audience as to what they need to be thinking about if they think this is something that they need to build into the strategy of their organization. And then finally we finished it off by saying, obviously that can be quite intimidating. Many of these technologies are new and they're challenging, but there are a number of partners out there, a number of different players that help in this process, from obviously the device manufacturers all the way through to platform providers. In the last year, many of the large organizations, IBM, Microsoft, Amazon, have come out with IoT platforms that bring together a number of these elements and actually assist the organization in building an IoT solution. So really starting off with the hype, moving through the advancements that have been made in IoT solutions, and then trying to make it quite practical so that someone can leave and say, well, if I believe in this, at least I've got some ideas of what I need to be looking out for and how I can go about developing an IoT strategy. So I think IoT in Africa is phenomenal. I think first of all, we know that one of the big devices that we use in IoT solutions, one of the key devices is the smartphone. And many of the applications that are affecting industries that are fundamental to Africa, for example, agriculture, health, are industries where IoT solutions are being developed that are going to help deliver those services in far more efficient ways, help enhance agriculture as an example. So we're very excited because Africa actually has a very pervasive mobile network, a very pervasive set of mobile devices. So that IoT platform is quite well established in the continent. And now if we're able to develop the other elements of the stack, many of these key services, agricultural support, health services and education, can be delivered through an IoT ecosystem, and there are many examples of what's being done in the health sector, where health services can now be provided via these devices from a central cloud platform. With agriculture, we're seeing a lot of interesting work being done in terms of providing management services and skills, again from a central base, through to not just the individuals that are actually performing the agricultural functions, but actually also being able to manage the soil, the progress of the harvest, with that expertise. So I think this is going to be, we're already seeing huge ability for Africa to enjoy the success of IoT implementations. As far as Business Connexion is concerned, obviously in the areas in which we are strong as an organization, we have a lot of applications in the mining industry. So what we're seeing is many of the sensors that have been out in industrial application, for example in mining, or where we've got a particular piping network, where we were in the past implementing sensors merely as a monitor control function and doing nothing with the streaming data that was coming through those sensors. Now we're able to connect them into an IoT ecosystem and gather a whole bunch more data and information, perform analytics on it, and give that information back to the pipe management group within the function, the mining company, and of course that's enhancing their ability to manage their operations. In retail, there is impressive use of IoT technology in terms of understanding what's actually happening with your consumer as that consumer enters the store. We're able to monitor them. We're able to monitor now how they view product sets that are placed on shelves. We're able to also assist the retailer with their supply chain through logistics management and efficiencies in ways that we couldn't do before. So those are just two industries that we are working on a number of projects that are surely going to bring about, or already have, some amazing efficiencies. So it's Matthew Blewett, Chief Investment Officer from Business Connexion.